Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with words and become much more articulate. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down my blog, 6 tips for talking to the camera. First of all, I want you to understand why you should learn this skill set in the first place. If you are a human being that is functioning within society, eventually, society and its progress is going to play a role on you. It doesn't matter if you are a businessman or you are working in a corporation. At one point or another, you're going to come into eye contact with the skill set of speaking to the camera. If you're in the corporate life and you've been working in your position for a certain period of time, I'm assuming that a lot of your peers, a lot of your, let's say, leadership team, they want to invest in your knowledge. They want you to create these training videos for the future generation. This is just one way that you may have to speak to the camera if you're working in the corporate life. Now, on the flip side, you got your own business. How do you exactly think you're going to promote yourself? Sure, you can do blogs, you can do podcasts, but let's say your blogs and podcasts are popping off and someone says, hey, I have this YouTube show that I host for people within your target market. You want to come on my show? Imagine how silly you would sound if you're like, well, I'll only do it if it's audio. No, you can't do that. You need to be able to adjust at the fly. So being able to speak in front of the camera is a coveted skill set. And if you're not even in business and in corporate life, I'm sure you're going to have to go to a wedding one of these days, and one of the people are going to be like, hey, Jake, say a couple of words for the bride and the groom. You don't want to run away. And this blog is going to give you some practical tips for you not to run away. So if you're ready and excited for today's talk, go on and drop that like for me right on below. And let's get started off with the first one, which is practice. What? You thought there was going to be some cheat code? No, you have to practice. Because if we're weighing in history, since mankind has even been a thing, man-to-machine communication, aka man-to-camera communication, is relatively new. So this is one of those things that it's meant to be awkward. When you were first meeting your friend, but let's say that this is before they were even your friend. At one point, they were a stranger, and you were talking to them for the first time. Was it smooth? For certain friends, maybe. But for a lot of these people that we speak to for the first time, there's a lot of clunkiness that's involved. But we still chill with them multiple times, and eventually we start to loosen up around them. It's the same exact thing with a camera. You're going to have to practice. Some people may be a natural, sure. But if you consider yourself heavily introverted, shy, or just one of those people that are great in all other forms of communication besides speaking to the camera, then there's no way around it. You're going to have to put in your reps. Which brings me to the second point, which is to create a light and dark zone. A lot of these news anchors that you see on TV, speaking all polished, they weren't always like that. There was a long period that a lot of these people, they did some form of internship, they did some form of schooling behind the scenes. They were putting in the reps. And those reps that you're not seeing are what I call the dark reps, aka something beyond the light, something that is being done behind the scenes, all for them to be ready in the light zones. So the light means public, dark means private. You too can adopt the same philosophy. You don't have to publish your first ever YouTube video or your first ever training class. Instead, you can practice in the dark. You have this thing called a phone, which has a thing called a camera built inside, which allows you to gather your thoughts and put it into words. And once you see that little red dot, which means it's recording, that means that you're building your dark material catalog. So by the time that you're ready for the light zone, you have more confidence because you've been preparing in the dark. The third tip is to have a long-term mindset. People who spoke a certain way 3 years ago probably speak a little bit different today. The reason why is because how we speak is a direct representation of our personality, and our personality always evolves as we have more and more experiences. So if you can have a long-term mindset in regards to speaking to the camera, it becomes much more fulfilling. You have more enthusiasm in learning this skill set. And every now and then, when there are little minor bumps and bruises, let's say for a live show, you end up fumbling your words, it's no longer a death sentence because you're thinking in decade by decade intervals rather than 10-day by 10-day intervals. So have a long-term mindset when you're investing in the skill set of speaking to the camera. The fourth tip is to watch your content back. This is very difficult to do because the nervous system doesn't like that. The nervous system does not like to see us in a completely different angle because we normally perceive life through first perspective. So it doesn't really like seeing us in third perspective. Oh well, get over it. There's a lot of these top tier athletes who watch their film back. So if you want to treat this skill set like a craft, you're going to have to watch your film back as well. A lot of research is studying this theory called psychoneuromuscular theory, which states that imagery has a direct influence on our nervous system, its signal, impulses, and much more. So over time, the more that you watch your content back, the more that you become this database of knowledge and you start to see what to do right, what to do wrong. And a lot of times when you're about to fumble, your lips will adjust in a certain way to prevent you from fumbling. Other times, you're actually going to fumble. It's all okay. Just view it as data. 5, watch yourself on TV. This is tied back into the last point, but the reason that I recommend watching yourself on TV, preferably over the phone, is because the TV has more so the same dimensions of your head as your real-sized head. So this further fools the nervous system. It makes the nervous system think that it's actually seeing you. And whenever you are invested in something, there's more alertness. Imagine that you have two friends that are whispering to each other, and once they're whispering to each other, you don't really care. But out of nowhere, you hear your name. Once you hear your name, automatically the awareness starts to expand because your name is personalized towards you. This goes on to show that we pick up information that directly relates to us in one way, shape, or form. So whenever you're watching yourself back on TV, it feels like you. And this further enhances your perception of the moment. You increase your concentration, you increase your investment in the skill set, and you speed up your learning curve. And the final tip, have fun. Now, this may sound very corny. You're going to be like, well, that's not practical at all. As a matter of fact, it is. Did you ever watch World Wrestling Entertainment growing up? I used to be a big fan as a kid. Then at a certain point, I stopped liking it because I was like, this is all fake. But as an adult, once I was starting ArmaniTalks, I got very curious about World Wrestling Entertainment, and not for the actual wrestling and the brawling, but in terms of how these big muscular people were playing these characters, how they had so much charm when they were doing the mic play. They were doing these live shows, not fumbling any words. And I was very curious in regards to the psychology of being a professional wrestler in World Wrestling Entertainment. So I read some books on a lot of these famous wrestlers, and a lot of them in the beginning stages are focusing a lot on the details. But around the end of the book, each one of them are like, you know, if I were to talk to my younger self, I would have just said, have fun. Because the more that you're having fun in front of the camera, the more that your personality spills over through the camera towards your audience, and the more the audience becomes engaged. So if you can just set that as the intention, oh well, I'm just gonna have fun regardless, a lot of the fear begins to melt away, and you're not as self-conscious, which further speeds up your progress, and you begin to show the attractive personality. So apply these 6 tips into your journey, because this is a journey. Each video that you record is a part of you that is going to eventually outlast you. So have some fun, have a long-term mindset, and keep on practicing. The more that you practice, the better that you get, the more that you burn off the dead wood, and now the camera sees the real you. So if you enjoyed this talk, be sure to check out ArmaniTalks.com, which has plenty more blogs like this, dealing with digital communication, public speaking, social skills, and much more. ArmaniTalks.com. Go on and check it out. Thank you very much for joining the Armani Talks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time.